What would you do if you were elected about Aleppo?
About?
Aleppo.
And what is Aleppo?
You're kidding.
No.
Aleppo is in Syria. It's the epicenter of the refugee crisis.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Well, with regard to Syria,
2016 provided the greatest opportunity in recent memory for a third-party political candidate to rise in America. Both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton were polarizing candidates, to say the least. Many people were shocked that no third-party candidate was able to gain traction. This video will help us understand why. Gary Johnson not knowing about Aleppo was forgivable, but failing to introduce the country to new ideas outside of those held by the establishment Democrat and Republican parties is unforgivable. You don't change the world by focusing on marijuana prohibition. Don't get me wrong, it should be legal, but that's not where the opportunity was. And it wasn't just Johnson. The Libertarian Party made itself into a joke. This man did a striptease at their national convention. How embarrassing. They did nothing to spread libertarian values. A recent WikiLeaks search has revealed why that is, and provides great insight into how the deep state controls political parties as a whole and the American political system. This story is much bigger than just the Libertarian Party. WikiLeaks.org, The Global Intelligence Files. The Global Intelligence Files, over 5 million emails from the Texas-headquartered global intelligence company Stratfor. The emails date between July 2004 and late December 2011. They reveal the inner workings of a company that fronts as an intelligence publisher, but provides confidential intelligence services to large corporations such as Dow Chemical, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, and government agencies including the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, the U.S. Marines, and the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency. The email shows Stratfor's web of informers, payoff structure, payment laundering techniques, and psychological methods. According to a press release from WikiLeaks, the emails also expose the revolving door that operates in private intelligence companies in the United States. Government and diplomatic sources from around the world give Stratfor advanced knowledge of global politics and events in exchange for money. The Global Intelligence Files expose how Stratfor has recruited a global network of informants who are paid via Swiss bank accounts and prepaid credit cards. Stratfor has a mix of covert and overt informants, which include government employees, embassy staff, and journalists around the world. This is Nicholas Sarwark. He was first elected as the chair of the Libertarian National Committee in June 2014, and is serving his second term as chair after being re-elected in 2016. If you go onto wikileaks.org and pull up the Global Intelligence Files, and you type Sarwark into the search field, you'll see that Nicholas Sarwark shows up in a number of emails. New gift list, Nick Sarwark. Stratfor run number 1, Nick Sarwark. Stratfor domestic gift, Nick Sarwark. Stratfor gift membership, Nick Sarwark. If you click on the emails, this one is new gift list, and scroll down, you'll see an Excel sheet attached. So I click on that Excel sheet. The Excel sheet includes over 500 names, which are presumed to be informants or clients of the CIA, the military-industrial complex, or the deep state. Number 422, Nick Sarwark, 5916 South Kenneth Place, Temple, Arizona. This is from sarwark.org. It's a blog written by Nicholas Sarwark. And you scroll down and you see that his family business, or the business that he owns, is Sarwarks Consolidated Auto Sales. If you then search for Sarwark's business, Consolidated Auto, you'll find at bizstanding.com that it's a family loan company. And the website is consolidatedauto.com. And there are two addresses, the second of which is 5916 South Kenneth Place, Temple, Arizona, 85283, which matches the address we had on the Excel sheet in the Stratford email. Is Nicholas Sarwark a deep state asset? Is his objective to infiltrate and subvert the message of the Libertarian Party? It would help explain some of the very odd behavior coming from Sarwark and the Libertarian Party since he took control. And that's not just the very weak presidential candidate in Gary Johnson, the lack of talking about real issues that could help change the world, true classical liberal values during the 2016 presidential election. It's not having a member of the Libertarian Party stripped naked for the whole country to see in an election year where their party had a real chance to make an impact. But it's also the character assassinations and the people that Sarwark has attempted to isolate from the Libertarian Party, as you will see.
Dr. Paul, I've been following this controversy. I don't know if you've read about this, but within the Libertarian Party, there's a Mises caucus, and they hew closer to the Mises line on a lot of these things. Well, they wanted to have you speak at the upcoming LP convention, the Mises caucus. They wanted to have you as a speaker. But from what I've read, someone really put the kibosh on that, and they said, no way. Actually, the Mises caucus even raised the money, I think, to get you out there to talk. Someone said no. They said no way. That the convention coordinator said no way, no Ron Paul. Does that make you feel sad?
Well, you know, I wondered about that, and I heard a little bit about it, but I wondered. I thought the Libertarian Party would be for Mises, and I didn't know they had to have another caucus. But I find that really fascinating. Matter of fact, I did get some vibes from this. Somebody might have called a staff, not me directly. I didn't talk to anybody, and I indicated, well, we'll look into it. Because I've spoken to the Libertarian Party meetings before, even though I've sort of skirted things, Republican and Libertarian, but I'm still a member of the Libertarian. I'm a lifetime member.
Lifetime member.
Of it. I don't think this is an equivalent to kicking me out, is it? I mean, they're just preventing me from speaking, so that's not disbarring me from the Libertarian Party. Because besides, if they did that, I wonder if it would be okay if I could ask for my gold coin back, because I paid, my lifetime membership in 1987 with a gold coin.
Did you?
So to make a point, So this will be interesting.
That's worth a little more nowadays, anyway.
That's right. But no, I'm open to talking with them. So I don't know exactly what's going on. It used to be that they would ask me, to come frequently, and a lot of times I couldn't do it. But we'll have to see what happens, see if they really want me or not. Or
well, I think one of the things that the leadership of the party, rather than rank and file, they weren't happy that you were critical of the ticket last time. You didn't love Bill Weld. Yeah. So I think that might be. They said he has no idea what the LP represents, is what the coordinator said. So
well, I wasn't happy with what the Republicans were doing or the Democrats. Yeah. So and I know something about not being allowed to speak in the Republican Party. I've been a candidate, an official candidate, qualified and all. Did finally get in the debates, but there were some times when I didn't get in the debates, and sometimes what we had to do is have our own little organization in order to counteract what was going on. So this is probably not new. It's not unique to the Libertarian Party, but there's always factions going on, and it doesn't get me too upset, because I think in terms of ideologies and philosophy, and I think in a bigger picture of the freedom philosophy, the libertarian approach should infiltrate Republicans, Democrats, and Libertarians, so that we can have everybody. And that's what happens when an idea whose time has come, it will infiltrate. Right now, I think those ideas are coming together, and the libertarian message should be leading the charge. But when you look at the leadership, it just seems like so often they melt away when you look at the Republicans and the Democrats, and the Republicans, say that they like libertarians, and there's a few Republican libertarians in office, but the leadership is so bad in all the political parties. They seem to go along, and that's annoying.
There essentially wouldn't be a Libertarian Party without Ron Paul, a politician who's done more to spread the values of classical liberalism than any other in the 21st century. Yet the Sarwark-led Libertarian Party has attempted to purge itself of Ron Paul, something Sarwark has also attempted to do in a character assassination of prominent libertarian and classical liberal Tom Woods.
Tom, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here, Jason. Thanks.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the recent stuff that's happened in the news, and more specifically stuff that's just going to appeal to libertarians a little bit on the inside baseball. But we've had a lot of white nationalist rallies that have come out, and inside of that, the Charlottesville one most prevalent. And inside of that, several people who call themselves or have called themselves libertarians who are now aligning themselves with the white power movement. Most notably, I think Chris Cantwell was someone who had been on your show several years ago. And you had someone who put up, and I don't even know who it was, who stuck up a page called Liberty Against Fascism, which I'm unclear why you would even need to say that, because it's a straight contradiction in terms just in the title. But there's a letter written saying we Liberty followers don't believe in fascism and we reject it, and you should sign this letter saying that you agree with it. And you and a couple other people decided that you were not going to sign this, and that created a wee bit of controversy with Nicholas Sarwark, who heads up the Libertarian Party. Can you talk to me a little bit about that and kind of explain to me in your own words what happened?
When it comes to this whole I have to get on the internet and tell everybody how much I'm against the Nazis thing, I don't go for that. I mean, first they want to make clear that I'm against slavery. I mean, what possible courage does it take to be against slavery in 2017? These people who are so at pains to let everybody know how opposed to slavery they are in 2017, these are the last people in the world who would have been against it in 1857. When it really counted, because these are people who crave attention and they want to be on the right side. They want to have all the fashionable opinions. Well, being anti-slavery was very unfashionable in those days, even in the North. So to that. But then fascism. So my view is I won't be satisfied till the Libertarian Party officially comes out against cancer. When are we going to get a petition against cancer that we can all get behind? The whole thing is so ridiculous. It's an insult to ask libertarians, in effect, to sign a petition saying, we're against fascism. Obviously, we're against fascism. And if you're dealing with people who are so vacant that they can't see that, then get away from those people. There's no helping those people. And those people have been out there for years claiming that libertarians are fascists because they don't know what libertarianism is. They don't know what fascism is. We're the polar opposite of fascism. So when I've talked to my kids who want to know, well, what is fascism? I explain it to them, and they say, oh, okay, so in other words, the exact opposite of everything you teach. Yes, right. So therefore, I don't feel the need to degrade myself by beating my breast in public to alert everybody of where I stand. I'm about the most anti-fascist person you could possibly be. So no, I'm not doing this. Not doing it. And particularly just because somebody tells me you better sign this thing, well, now you really are sure I'm not doing it.
So then what do you say to a guy like Sarwark, who's supposed to be heading up and trying to rally people to the libertarian cause and try and get more people involved in the political process, coming out and attacking specifically you? I mean, names you. I have the Twitter comments in front of me. This is what he said. He said, in case you're wondering why people have a problem with Jeff Deaston, Thomas E. Woods, and Bob Murphy, they stay silent on this liberty against fascism. And he says, this is the time for choosing. Or this isn't him, this is a reply to him. I can't hear their tortured apologies over the silence. What do you say to someone who comes out and attacks, of all people, the Mises Institute? This seems, number one, it seems counterproductive, and number two, it seems like he's just vying for controversy.
Yeah, I mean, if I look at his Twitter feed, I already know where he's coming from, and it's not a good place. But I've basically left him alone because I don't pick fights with people for no reason. But if they attack me, then I respond. And so, of course, it goes to show I don't actually think his primary purpose is to build up the Libertarian Party. I think it's to broadcast to the establishment that, we have some views that are out of the mainstream, but we're, more or less we're on the same page with you guys. He tweeted out an article the other day by a left-wing writer on white privilege, on why being a straight white male really gives you so many advantages that how could you possibly screw that up? So typical left-wing lecturing, and he tweeted that out. And so my response, see, what helps is he has no sense of humor. He has a sense of humor of a doorknob. So I responded by saying, somebody must have hacked into the Twitter account of the chairman of the Libertarian Party because he's tweeting out left-wing articles about white privilege. So for him to come after me proves to me he's not trying to welcome, he wants to purge the party.
Yeah, and the question I have, and that I wanted to get your opinion on, is why do you think that that's the case? Because I don't think it's even in question, Tom. The very idea that someone who has helped to build a modern understanding of what libertarianism is, I mean, the two names at the very top of that list are Tom Woods and Bob Murphy. So for him to, it's not even a question. I haven't talked to anybody who thinks that that's anything other than laughable. But the question is then what is the objective in doing that? Is he trying to move the Libertarian Party out of libertarianism and into some form of lukewarm progressivism, or is it something different? Or is he just stupid?
I don't know that the guy's stupid. I don't think he's a moron. I don't think he has a genius IQ. I'll put it that way. But I think he strikes me as sort of a time-serving sort of guy. People tell me he's competent as an administrator, but I have suspicions. I think it could be that maybe being chairman of the Libertarian Party is not the world's most exciting thing, and maybe he's positioning himself for something else. And you don't lose points in the Koch orbit by criticizing Tom Woods. Let's just put it that way. You do not lose points for that. They make note of that, put a little check mark next to the box. So it could be anything like that. It cannot be, well, we need to purge ourselves of these questionable people, because in the society at large, nobody even knows who I am. Nobody's ever heard of me. There's no need to do this.
Or it could be that he's a corrupt deep state asset who infiltrated and subverted the Libertarian Party. But why would the deep state have to infiltrate a third party that is little to no threat to the Democratic Party or the Republican Party? Could it be that classical liberal values are a threat to the oligarchy, the establishment of political power? What are classical liberal values?
Well, what about the Libertarian Party? Can you tell us a little bit about what it stands for?
Libertarian Party is based on a firm principle of non-aggression. We all take a pledge when we join the party that we will never initiate force against somebody else. That is, a pretty simple principle that everybody should endorse. It's a principle of what makes civilization. That is, you respect other people's life, and you respect other people's property. Thou shalt not steal, and thou shalt not murder. It's that simple, and most everybody agrees to that. And the next question ought to be is, well, why should you be different than Republicans and Democrats if they tend to agree with that same principle? Well, we believe it's such an important moral principle that if we can't take somebody else's property and we can't hurt anybody or we can't intimidate anybody or threaten to use force, we don't think the government can either. But we see the government as the initiator of force to bring about social and economic changes day in and day out. I mean, they may not come up to our front door with a gun, and occasionally they do, but we know if we don't deliver our money and our records and do obediently what the government wants in order to give up our portion of our income through the Internal Revenue Service, the gun will be quickly at our door and we will be in prison. So it's the threat and the intimidation, and therefore they're transferring wealth, something that we can't do as individuals. So we as libertarians reject this whole idea of forcible redistribution of wealth, which is the welfare state. Same way in personal liberties. We apply this principle in the area of personal liberties, And although I might want you and think you should lead a certain lifestyle because I think it's good and right and moral, I have no right to tell you what to do. You know, if you want to live a certain way, I disagree. That's tough. You know, that's your choosing. That's the individual's choice, as long as you don't hurt somebody else. So the person has the right to his own life and his liberty, his own lifestyle, as with one special rule, that your lifestyle, the individual's lifestyle, can't hurt somebody else. So if you do things that I disapprove of, I, as a libertarian, am tolerant and I accept that up until the point of no injury to anybody else.
Now, I talk to libertarians or listen to them or view them on TV, and they're talking about government power all the time and abuse of governmental power. But I also see some libertarians, not a whole lot of them, but a lot of them also talk about corporate power as well. In other words, they're talking about power in general. There seem to be two types of libertarians.
Well, I think we have one type of libertarian because we all accept the same principle. I think it's more easily found that you have several types of Republicans and several types of Democrats because they're interventionists and they can intervene any way they want. But I think libertarians are pretty consistent in certainly condemning the power of government. I haven't heard a libertarian saying that we need more government or they're not a libertarian. But on the corporate power, I think where the confusion might come is corporate size, if it's gained by serving the consumer, is not necessarily evil. So if you have 90% of the car industry, for some miraculous reason or for some unknown reason, there's no imports. If you have 90% of it, that doesn't bother me as a libertarian if you have the best car at the best price and the consumers are very happy. Now, if you have 90% or 100% of a utility company and you're gouging the customers and the customers have no place else to go, we detest the corporate size. We detest corporate power when it's gained through government power, government coercion. If it's a contract, the military-industrial complex is a pretty good example of how large industries benefit by big government. Of course, in banking, big banks benefit by this monetary system because they're sort of in collusion with the Federal Reserve System, so we detest that. We detest bigness, and we detest corporate power when it's gained through privilege from government. If corporations are large, and there's always free entry in a free market, if they're large because they serve the consumer, we don't worry too much about that because we know the consumer is benefiting. If they get to the point, if they had 100% of an industry, which is not possible in a free market, but let's say, just for instance, if they had 100%, and then they started to gouge the people, there would immediately be competition. There always has to be free entry and free competition. But nobody's ever figured out where there's ever been a true monopoly in a free market system. All monopolies can be traced to some form of government protectionism.
Well, of course, now we talk about government and corporations. But as you've said, up at the top, they're all the same people. The corporate executives go to and from the government. They hold positions in the government. The people from the Trilateral Commission and the Bilderbergers and all, they're all corporate people. And they have their relationships and interlocks with the banks and with universities and foundations and all that. So to talk about you're really talking about one source of power instead of corporation on one side and government on the other, because it's all one pot, as you said.
I think it's become one pot. Not only that is you don't have any help by, say, voting for a Democrat who may be a little more critical of large corporations. But we know Democrats are just as much in bed with big government, too. I mean, you take a Michael Dukakis, for instance. Do you think maybe Boston was somewhat dependent on some military contracts with Tip O'Neill? I mean, they're just as much. It's all demagoguery when it comes to these political campaigns. So either side, they're the same people control it. And, Ronald Reagan spoke sharply against the Trilateral Commission, but he was the first president to host the Trilateral Commission in the White House. I mean, that's how blatant it is. It's the same group of people. That's why you find no political action committee, no large corporation who supports libertarians. I voted while in Congress. I think the strictest free market set of votes ever, but I never got political action committee money. But small business people who want to compete against big business, they're free market people, and they're much more likely to be libertarians and believe in the principles of free enterprise. But once the corporations get real large, and they're more interested in paying a couple $100,000 for a top lobbyist who knows the system, who can get a regulation that exempts their corporation or gets their contract in place. And this is the way the system works. So we reward the lobbyists and the political action committees much more so than we reward a principle of freedom.
What about this Banking and Currency Committee? And we've had Congressman Gonzalez on, who's one of your colleagues, and he sees the world very clearly and sees the power structures at work. And I'm sure you have a clear picture of this also. Is this one of the reasons you became a libertarian instead of a Republican?
Well, it's certainly one of the reasons why I got involved in politics, because I was very fascinated with economics and particularly monetary policy. And if you think about it, money is pretty important. If you look at all transactions, whether you're buying something or selling your services, 1/2 of all economic transactions is the monetary unit. So if somebody has control over the value of the monetary unit, they control every transaction. Therefore, if you have an institution, such as a government-ordained bank, like a central bank, like our Federal Reserve, if they have absolute monopoly control over the value of that currency, they control everything in the economy. It becomes a form of a government-regulated economy. It doesn't become socialism, but the money obviously is socialistic in that the government controls it. So if they increase the supply, the value goes down. If they tighten the supply, interest rates go up. So it's tremendous economic power. And the insiders, those who know what the policy is, literally can benefit. They don't stuff their pockets and line their pockets with cash. That's not the way it happens. But those who are in the inside and knowledgeable will benefit because they know which direction interest rates are going and which way the economy is going. And if you look at the members of the Federal Reserve, you find out that they don't ask people like me to be on the Federal Reserve, even though I've had experience on studying the issue and been on the banking committee. They ask only the people who are casually referred to as the insiders, those from Wall Street and the banking industry, the Paul Volckers and the Alan Greenspans of the world. They're on the inside. They know how to deal with the establishment, and they get these positions, and therefore it is a tremendous amount of economic power falls into the hands of what we call the Open Market Committee, the Federal Open Market Committee. They control from day to day the supply of money. They become the legal counterfeiters. You know, if you and I had control of the printing press, we could do a lot of things, you know, self-serving. That's what happens when the politicians create the central bank that control the money.
Now, this control of the central bank and the money goes on regardless of which party is in power, right?
It never changes. You know, they change a person here and there, but it's always the insiders. It's always from the same group. So if you have a Republican as president or the Democrats, they're going to get the same appointments. Appointments never change. And this can be said about the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of Treasury and the Federal Reserve Board members. They all come from the same group. And even though, I guess naively, I was hopeful that the same group of individuals would not have as much power under Ronald Reagan. But, you know, I was there, I witnessed it, and of course that led to my disenchantment, my disappointment, enough to the point where I just said, I've had enough, and then I left the Republican Party and joined the Libertarian Party with the idea that you cannot trust Republicans to be independent of the system either, although Ronald Reagan led us to believe that he would be independent.